The thread I'm using to tie this fly is brown UTC 70. I start tying it in just behind the bead at the head of the fly. I snip off the tag end of the thread, then position the bead where I want it at the head of the fly. Next step is to lock the bead in place by building up thread wraps right behind the bead. The spinning capabilities of the vise I'm using let me build up the thread wraps pretty quickly right behind the bead, locking it right where I want it. I continue to use the rotary function of the vise to quickly move the thread rearward. I end right about where the hook begins to bend downwards. Now I tie in the tail of the fly. In this case, I'm using light Pardo Coque de Leon fibers. I continue to secure the fibers tying forward to a position somewhere just behind where the bead is. Snip off the excess. Now I tie in some medium gold wire for a rib. I start tying it in just behind where the bead is, then begin advancing the thread rearward, ending just a little bit before where the tail is tied in. Now I build up the body of the fly using the thread. If you have a vise, the rotary feature makes this pretty quick work. At this point, I like to secure my thread in place with a half hitch. On smaller flies, a single turn with a whip finish tool makes precise placement of the thread a little bit easier. Now I rib the fly by wrapping the wire forward using about 5 or 6 evenly spaced turns. The wire is secured in place using thread wraps, and then to save wear and tear on my scissors, I rotate the wire till it breaks off. At this point, I like to secure my thread again using a half hitch or a single turn for my whip finishing tool. Now I add a thin coating of UV resin to the body of the fly. In this case, I'm using Solares's Bone Dry Ultra Thin formula. I begin rotating the fly in the vise to make sure the resin is distributed evenly around the fly, and then hit it for about 10 seconds with a UV flashlight to cure it. Now I dub the fly with fur to make a small collar right behind the bead. In this case, I'm using chipmunk fur for the dubbing. I secure the thread in place using my whip finisher, making about 4 turns. I make sure the knot is secure, and I trim the thread. The fly is now complete and ready to fish.